Excuse me. Hello. Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to On Your Mental. This is the podcast that shares candid, open, sometimes vulnerable conversations between and about men. This week, it's me. I'm wearing my speed goggles because sometimes life comes at you fast. That sounds a little dramatic. Today, we're talking about balance, life balance, work-life balance, balance in all aspects of your life. I'm just having a little spiel rant. Might call it a rant, whatever, but sometimes life comes at you fast, so we got to put on the goggles today. So I hope you all enjoy this week's episode. If you're not already, of course, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. And if you like this little talk today about balance and finding balance in your life and knowing when to reassess balance, all that kind of jazz, leave a like and then maybe stick around for a while. Subscribe. Anyways, I'll see you in a moment when the episode starts. Peace. All right, so not only do I have my speed goggles on today, I also have a bowl of Skittles with me. Y'all remember Marshawn? Well, remember, he's not dead. Y'all know Marshawn Lynch, big Skittles guy, football player, does some cameos in TV shows, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I like Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He's been in there before. I think just one episode. I like Skittles. Skittles are probably I would go as far as to say a top 3 candy. I don't know, it's just they got a good texture to them, a good chew. Pardon me as I'm chewing here. When my mom's watching, she'll probably be thinking, oh, you shouldn't be chewing with your mouth open. You shouldn't be talking with your mouth open. You're right, Mom. Sorry. I'm having fun today. I'm just enjoying my time here on set. Let me get my mug. Eventually, again, yeah, sure, mugs will be on sale one day, but today we're just having fun. I wanted to talk today, and I've got a list here. I've got a list of some bullet points, some things that I feel are important to get across, and as to why I'm talking about balance. Also, real quick, Kabir is not on this episode, and this is my fault, because I didn't plan very well, and that's why I'm talking about balance. That's why I'm going to have this conversation. I felt that I was just not wanting to bother myself with rearranging my living room, to organize a guest, to pick a topic, to do an episode this week. But I wanted to put out an episode to tell you that I didn't want to do an episode. Doesn't that make sense? I also want to mention here at this point, before I start talking about balance, that there may or may not be an episode next week. It depends on how I'm feeling over the next few days about getting some stuff set up. So I'll use that as a segue to get into what I'm talking about. I think I'm going to pull back a little bit on the podcast for about a week's time. Nothing crazy, but just to allow me to plan a little bit. I think I've let the episodes get ahead of us a little. Last week when we did the stress episode, we filmed that the day before it came out, and then that was exhausting, just going through the edit and getting it ready for the next day and getting all the TikToks cut out and all that stuff. That can be draining, and that made me start to think, oh, maybe I should reconsider how I'm balancing some things in my life. So that's the message I'd like to drive home today. So recently I started to feel as though I haven't been able to place value in the things that I enjoy. And yes, by the way, the shades are sticking on. Okay, I'm kind of feeling them. I think these are like dollar store shades. My girl got them for me as a joke, and they're sick. But yeah, I haven't been feeling as though I've been able to place value in the things that I enjoy so much, because I've just been so in my own head about getting something done, getting things out, feeling this need to create something for the sake of like maintaining a schedule that I set for myself. You know what I mean? I told myself that I want to do weekly episodes. I can tell myself that I don't have to do a weekly episode for a week. You know what I mean? I have my own control over that, but I kind of let that routine or like pseudo pressure get the better of me a little bit. So that being said, I think that the right course of action would be to change how I'm managing my time and my energy and everything in my life a little bit. This is following up on the conversation we had last week with Joe about stress, and Joe talked about the risk and the negative health effects of dealing with chronic stress. And that's kind of what I feel like I've been dealing with. I talked about it in my burnout episode a few weeks ago now. And I think I finally have come to the realization that, yes, I'm cutting back on caffeine. I've done good things in my diet. I'm eating a bit more balanced. I'm getting my veggie greens in. I'm supplementing iron now for myself because I think I might be iron deficient. I'm still going to wait to get those blood tests. I got the requisition now so I can go and get the tests done. And I've been getting more sleep, or at least seem to be getting more sleep, or closer to my 8 hours. And I've been getting more exercise. I've been doing all those things, but I'm still not feeling 100%. So I think I did just need to get a better grip on my schedule, my routine. And so I'm going to be maybe missing 1 week as a result of me feeling better about myself. Now I'm planning stuff. I think an important thing to note is that I was able to reach a point where I realized I needed to rebalance. Not everybody does. Not everybody realizes that there's something going on. And I'm not saying that I realized my tone as I said that sounds like I'm like, not everybody can do what I do. No. Shut up, man. No, I'm just saying that maybe pause and reflect for a moment. If you've been feeling like something similar to what I've been speaking of in the last few episodes about feeling that you're just a little burnt out, that stress has been sitting there and sitting with you for too long, right? Maybe think and pause for a moment. Are there some things that you can actually change? Because for a long time, I had been thinking to myself, oh, this is because I'm working my full-time job. This is essentially another full-time job when I'm here. This is just taking so much energy for me. I don't have time for exercise, all this stuff. I've been putting these things off, blah, 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 blah. I kept making excuses. That's kind of how I feel about how I was viewing things for myself, is that I always had an excuse for why I wasn't feeling great. Bullshit. Call bullshit on myself, I think that you sometimes need to just realize that there are things that are in your control. There are some things that aren't. There are things that are, and those are the ones you got to change. So for me, that's this podcast. I can pull back on trying to film, trying to get all the set arranged and all that kind of stuff, and allow myself to do another side of the thing I enjoy. I'm not stopping what I'm doing. I'm not stopping doing the thing that I love. I am changing the part of what I do in there and emphasizing one aspect of it more than another, one that takes less physical energy out of me and time out of me. When I'm planning, I'm able to sit, I'm able to relax, I'm able to just think. That's like still taking energy to do, and it's something I have to focus on when I do it, but I'm not having to haul the shit around the room and rearrange a set and come up with a topic and reach out to a guest and get them in here and then film for an hour and then edit and all that stuff. I can cut that out and then feeling a little bit better. I'm able to use my time differently. And then when I come back and I feel like now I've had the time to plan, I've taken that aspect out of it, the reaching out to guests, the lining up guests, the setting times to film. I've taken that out of it. Now I can build a schedule around it. That is what I think the important thing is going to be when I'm looking at rebalancing here and feeling a little bit better. So in a way, I've shifted the perspective I have on imbalance. I think a lot of people, when you think about work-life balance, that's a weird duality. Obviously, when someone says you need a good work-life balance, I think the first thing that comes to mind is, oh, work bad, life good. I gotta get more balance so that I can actually enjoy my life, right? But that's such a negative way to view it at the same time. I'm not saying like, oh, you gotta love going to work. Not everybody does. The reality is not everybody does love going to work. But it's a responsibility. It's something that is a part of your life. And I was listening to something earlier. I think it was, it might have been like Jordan Peterson or somebody was talking about work-life balance. And I read a comment in there. It wasn't even him that said this. There was a comment on one of the posts or on the YouTube video I watched. And the person said they had heard of work-life harmony before instead of work-life balance. I think that that's maybe a better way to look at things. And that falls in line with what I'm saying about shifting my perspective on how I view work-life balance and that concept. I got to not look at it as work being the problem. I got to look at it as I can control the things I can control. And those are the ones that I need to shift in order for me to rebalance. So rather than thinking, oh, I'm as tired as I am and I don't have the time to set up the set because I have to work 40 hours a week and then I'm tired after doing that. No, dude. Just don't set up the set, man. Just pull back and you'll be all right. So that's what I'm doing. Anyways, I don't want to repeat myself too much in this conversation here. I'm just trying to get through my bullets here, all right, my points. So yeah, I think that changing a perspective on how you view work-life balance will help you come to the conclusion and see the steps that you could take in order to rebalance. For me, again, that has been seeing, okay, it's not that I'm just exhausted between work, exercise, social life. I am just doing a lot, and I can stop doing a little bit of what I'm doing. There's no real, like, what's going to happen if I didn't post for a week? Nothing. Think about it. Now, another thing that I was thinking of when planning to have this little conversation today was I thought back to Joe's episode from just last week and talking about the difference between chronic stress and short-term stress, so long-term and short-term, and how short-term stress can be good. Chronic stress is often the problem that we all face when we think of being stressed and burnt out and exhausted and tired, depressed, anxious. All that builds from chronic stress. But when we were talking about that in the episode, the thing we were talking about was how there's an interesting contrast between the two, between short-term and long-term stress. Short-term stress will stimulate growth, right? Short-term stress in your life will allow you to develop. You go to the gym, you exercise, that's stress on your body. You learn a new skill, that's stressing your mind. That helps you grow. You're looking at something that you don't fully understand. You have some idea of the right next steps to take, but you're stressing your mind out to get it to learn, right? Whether that be a mental growth, a physical growth, whatever it may be. But then on the other hand, you got chronic stress. And that chronic stress can get in the way of that growth. Or at least that's how it's been feeling for me, right? Let me chew this damn Skittle. I like them, but they're chewy. In hindsight, this was kind of a bad idea to be chewing Skittles on a podcast. But, I don't know, maybe if I just take a handful, I'll probably, I don't know. Comment down below your favorite Skittle flavor. And don't fucking even begin to tell me that they're not different flavors. If someone had the audacity to say that to me the other day, Skittles are most definitely different flavors. You can't tell me that a green tastes anything like a red. Anything. Anyways, my favorite's purple. And you? Yeah, I'm not going to have any more of those. That took, like, no joke, like 30 seconds. I would have cut around it, but that took like 30 seconds to chew. So when I was contrasting in my mind, chronic stress, long-term stress versus short-term stress, I've been feeling like the short-term stress, as much as I'm trying to interject into my life and allow it to get me to grow, like things like finding a new challenge with the podcast, finding new topics, all that kind of stuff. I couldn't even get to those things because of the long-term stress and the chronic stress I've been feeling, right? Just having so much, and this is subjective. You might hear me say this stuff and you'll be like, oh, maybe it's not that much. How can it be that much work? For me, this feels like a lot of work. Full-time job, podcast. Feels like a lot to me. Exercise, spending time with my partner, playing games with the boys maybe once a week at this point. God, that sucks. So yeah, me just feeling like I've had so much has not allowed me to really enjoy and grow and develop as much as I feel like I could in the areas where I am inducing short-term stress through new challenges, right? So it's funny how this kind of thing can like stunt your growth, you know? You can get like a little bit stuck in a rut in a way. So I think when I'm looking at rebalancing and pulling back on a week of video content perhaps, and again, there might be an episode next week still. It depends on how easy it is for me to put it together. If it's not going to take a huge amount of stress to do, right, or amount of brain power to get through that, I want to focus on planning this next week. So I think that pulling back on the podcast a little bit, that's going to make it so when I do come to the point where I'm reintroducing the podcast the following week, or when I start planning guests, I will have been able to spend more time planning some really good shit so that I can come out and I'm going to feel even better about that stuff than I would have if I kept just trying to come up with the next thing, like forcing your brain to think. You ever get that feeling where you're trying to force a good idea to happen? That shit never works. You'll sit there and you'll be just trying to catch up with like making sure that you can do better than the last thing that you did. It's okay not to do better than the last thing you did, you know? You don't always have to make an improvement on every single thing. What you do have to do is you have to try. But if you're getting in your own way of that, you're not going to be successful in trying to do that. If I'm too busy being caught up in trying to make something happen for the sake of making it happen, to get an episode of the podcast out for the sake of getting that episode of the podcast out, those episodes aren't going to be my best episodes. They're not going to be the best conversations hosted, because I'm just going to be thinking the whole time, man, I got to get this thing edited. I got to get this thing ready to go. Right? So pull back on that so that you can plan around good content rather than trying to scramble. And that can apply to other parts of your life, right? For those of you who are listening who aren't making podcasts, right? That's going to be the vast majority of you. If you feel as though you're getting in the way of your own growth and development, be okay with the fact that you're not necessarily improving every single step, every single day, but you are trying to. And if part of that process involves you stopping doing something that you think you need to be doing in order to improve, but if you stopped it, you're going to feel better, stop it. Stop that thing that you're doing. In this case, again, for us, it's the podcast for 1 week. So taking the time to rebalance will make it so that when we reintroduce the things that we enjoy, those things are going to be even better that time around. I think that that's going to be important, and it's going to be interesting to see how I feel after doing this for a week. I expect that things are going to feel better when I haven't had to sit there and worry about who I'm talking to next and trying to get stuff lined up. I will have taken some time over the next week to plan well ahead so that I know what's coming up. Because I got a vacation coming up too. Just a reminder, I'm going to be gone in June for like 10 days, mid-June. So I got to make sure that we're good lined up to then, you know. Also, Ev, my roommate, moving out June 3rd, right? So I got to deal with that as well. I got to be ready to help him out on moving day, and I got to be able to prepare myself to reorganize after he's headed out, you know? So I got to have some other things ready in my life, which means I need to do some other preparation to make sure that this part of my life that I love, running this podcast, is able to keep moving while I'm doing those other things. When I was looking up stuff about balance for this episode, something that came up was composure, stability, and comfort. Three kind of pillars that fit into the conversation around balance. And those three things are what I want you all as the audience to keep in mind for just a moment. Again, those are composure, stability, and comfort. When you're trying to balance things in your life, if you are imbalanced, if you are lacking balance in your life, you might also start to lack composure. You know, when things start to go wrong and you're not able to maintain balance anymore, then you might lose composure. You might get to points where maybe you're snapping. Maybe you're not reacting as well to things. Maybe you're not dealing with adversity as it hits you, you know? I'm thinking of an example where we've talked before on episodes where you kind of reach a boiling point. And if you reach that boiling point, you might explode. You boil over. When that happens, little things can start to make you lose composure and react poorly. I was even thinking about myself just now. In a way, I kind of lost composure with getting the podcast organized for this week, right? I was just so frustrated at the idea in my own mind of having to get things set up that I didn't want to do it, and I didn't even bother. I didn't communicate particularly well to Cabs, sorry Cabs, about why things weren't being pulled together. So composure can be affected negatively by imbalance in your life. Obviously, balance relates to stability, and I think stability ties into composure. You become a little bit unstable when you're not feeling balanced. I know for myself, I've really struggled to have like clear thoughts and make clear decisions and make the right call on things. I've felt like I haven't been able to, I can't even pick a place to eat these days. I'm feeling that kind of level of stress and that I've just not had the energy to be myself, if you will. Anyways, so I don't want to just sit here and harp about balancing and not feeling great with how I'm managing the different aspects of my life these days. What I do want to offer are some solutions. You know, I don't want to sit and that was maybe feedback that I gave myself after the last one, after I don't know how many damn comments, but also at the same time, you don't always have to give solutions to stuff. You're allowed to just talk about your problems. That's the point of this podcast. You're allowed to talk about your problems, but I want to give solutions, or at least the things that I am going to be trying to do when I say I'm going to be not planning or not doing so much of the work around filming and setup and actually putting out an episode next week. I will be putting more effort and energy into planning. I'm going to share the other things that I think are going to help when trying to rebalance. So one thing that I have always found very beneficial is schedule and routine. I've talked about not really feeling like I have that a lot of the time. Just my work schedule is a bit random, right? Every week it's different hours, different start times, different end times. And so that can be, and different days off. That can be detrimental to trying to build a schedule. But again, not trying to make excuses. What we want to do is, or what I'm going to do, is introduce a bit of a plan and a schedule for this next week around planning. So planning episodes, planning content, planning conversations. I'm going to introduce a schedule for myself where each day I have some tasks that I want to get done. I want to pick some dates, for example. I want to know what dates I'm filming. I want to pick out the next few topics very deliberately and very clearly and identify those guests. And then I need to reach out to them. I need to book that time with them. I need to make sure that the set is ready for them. And so that is going to involve planning and schedule and routine. That's going to allow me to spend some time each day, maybe 1-2 hours, whatever it is, 3, who knows, doing those things. And that's going to be my schedule to plan. When you assess a schedule like that, I think it gives you a grasp over what you're doing and gives you a better handle over what you're doing, which I think is important when you're talking about balance. Another thing that would be important, I think, for improving how you feel about the things in your life is setting little goals as kind of like milestones for you, little checkpoints to tell you that you're on the right track. Because that'll make you feel like the work that you're doing is meaningful, and that even though you're maybe, in this case, stopping doing something that you normally do, that there are still some results that you're seeing from what effort you are putting in. For me, I'm going to look at this next week and go, okay, by Tuesday, I want to know what the next week's episode is going to be, the next one that gets filmed. By Thursday, I want to know the next one. By Saturday, I want to know the next one. So I'm going to have 3 incremental goals so that I have 2 days per episode to sort and plan and come up with what I'm going to do. There you go. I'm giving myself my goals here, right? And doing that in combination with that schedule that I'm going to give myself of 2 to 3 hours each day working on that planning, not having to think about, okay, I've got this next episode coming and I have to film it and I have to edit it and get it ready to go. I think that's going to give me a really good grasp on that planning, and it's going to make those next few episodes really great because we'll have dedicated the right amount of time to making sure that they're going to be done right. And I realize as I'm saying all this, it's kind of sounding like I'm talking about doing all this stuff around balance, and I've mentioned work-life balance a couple times, but I'm still going to be doing work. Again, I talked about that a little bit earlier. I'm still going to be doing work. I'm not stopping doing the thing that I enjoy. I'm just taking my mind off of the part that I know has been causing me the most stress. So the last thing that I kind of want to drive home today is that sometimes it is okay to sacrifice parts of the things that you enjoy if it means that you're going to be getting towards a better place of balance in your life. If you're somebody who goes for a run every single day because that's the thing that brings you the most joy, but you've been finding that maybe, I don't know, you're going for a run and your runs are lasting an hour. Maybe that's a long time to run. And maybe your runs are lasting, say, 45 minutes, but you're starting to feel like, oh, like I wish I had a little bit more time in the morning. I haven't been having as great of a start to the rest of my day. I've been feeling a little bit rushed by having to cram in my run or something like that. I don't know. This is just an example. Shorten your run a little bit, still do the thing that you love. Because again, talking about the podcast here for a moment, I love getting this put together and shooting these and doing the editing, doing the planning. I think the thing that's been bothering me the most has been doing the setup. I think sacrifice is okay if it means at the end of the day, you're coming out on top, you're coming out better, even though it meant you gave up something that you, like at the end of the day, you enjoy doing. But you're maybe finding it a little bit too much in combination with your responsibilities, because you can't sacrifice your responsibilities. You can sacrifice the things that are elective to do in your life. If you're a student, for example, you're not going to sacrifice going to class because that's your responsibility. If you don't go to class, you're going to miss out on the material. You're going to fall behind, and you're not coming out better for doing that. But let's say you've got, you're in like some club at your university or college or whatever. Skip that 1 week, whatever you got to do if it means that you get on top of your studying, if maybe you're falling behind. And that's the way that I'm looking at this. That's a good analogy between the podcast and that. Stop the extracurriculars. For me, the extracurricular this week is setting up the damn set. I'm going to cut that out so that the actual podcasts that follow are going to be a lot better, because it's just been a bit too much. Anyways, I feel like I've gone on enough here about trying to find balance. I'll try and summarize a little bit of what I've said. And I'll start by saying that first step is knowing that you need to rebalance, whatever it takes for you to get to that moment. If maybe hearing me talk about realizing I needed to rebalance, if that rings true with you today, great. Happy it did. Put on your speed goggles. That's something you got to do because life comes fast. So make sure that you're protected. Use protection. And work-life balance does not necessarily have to be a negative and positive balance. Work, I don't think, should be seen as such a negative thing in one's life. It's a responsibility. It's part of life. It's something that you need to do. And that's okay. That's the thing that will almost remain constant. If you think about the hours in a week, 40 hours a week, that's set to work, for at least my life and for most of my friends' lives that I know, people I know. That's 40 hours a week. That's rigid. That doesn't change, right? You can change the other hours in the week, and you can change and choose what you want to do with those. If that means that some of those hours that were filled with one thing need to be cut back on, that's quite all right. You can do that. So yeah, don't get in the way of your own growth by allowing your life stress, which is going to happen, build up to a point where you're not able to enjoy the things that you want to as much as you did before. Know when it's time to pull back on the things you enjoy in order for you to enjoy them later. That's quite okay to do. So yeah, that's what I'll leave y'all with. Next week might be an episode, might not. The only way that there would be an episode is if what I have in mind, and I do have something in mind, if it feels like it's coming together naturally, great. If it doesn't, that's okay. But if there is an episode, y'all are going to like it. If not, there will be an episode the week after, and that one is going to be great for sure, because I know it will have been planned well, and I would have been prepared well in advance for it. I didn't let it slip away and get ahead of me and Kabir here. So that's it from me. I will see y'all next week, maybe, if not, the week after with another episode. And if you're not already, of course, make sure that you're subscribed. That way you know when new episodes are coming out. Peace.